we actually noticed a bigger problem.
There's a problem in there.
There is a problem in there.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little later.
It's time we do talk about this problem, a broken part of our standing rigging. We suspect this snapped somewhere along the way as we bashed through rough weather from Tonga down to New Zealand. The standing rigging keeps the mast upright, and on an ocean-going sailboat like One Life, it can be a matter of life or death. We were lucky that nothing more failed when that toggle broke. Before we can leave New Zealand for warmer waters, we have sailed back to Auckland to get it sorted. But, as usual with boat projects, what we hope will take a week or two turns into something much larger.
Furling boom is extra tight now. After we didn't sail for like a month, we went
through here.
Yeah, and it's there. You can kind of reach it.
Do you reckon there's some water been coming down there?
Condensation from that fridge line right there.
We just got tied up to the marina, and Richard and his mate Jack were already here waiting for us. It was awesome. So they just came on board and did a little quick tour. They looked at our busted toggle on our chain plate first. But yeah, we're gonna get to work. We're gonna be super busy while we're here. I'm really excited to have all the rigging checked out. One Life's rigging, standing rigging, is from 2015. So almost 10 years old. Yeah, but super excited to work with these guys and get everything sorted out. So Gary and I are gonna get to work taking down the sails, and we're gonna go from there.
We pulled down our staysail first, which is small enough to fold up nicely on deck. Next, it was time to drop the Genoa. This much larger sail is a bit difficult to neatly fold on board, so we took it up to the grass at the marina and cleanly packed it away. The guys from Independent Riggers came out to help us remove the mainsail from the boom so we could take a closer look at our furling system and try to figure out why it was so tough to hoist up and furl down. To give the rest of the rigging a full inspection, they hoisted Jack up the mast.
But knowing that the pin will be like in the center, if you know what
With Jack back on deck, we began the tedious process of removing the boom from the boat. The boom attaches to the furling unit through a universal joint, which needed to be carefully disconnected without dropping any of the parts. With lots of hands, the boom was taken down onto the dock, and the furling unit could now be taken apart. Unfortunately, to get inside the furling unit, it must be removed from the mast, and the screws holding it in were extremely stuck.
Not when he's ever.
Even the torch came out to try to break them free.
Ooh, that was a screwdriver.
There you go.
I did mine yesterday.
Wow.
There's a bit on there.
Wow.
The next morning, Rich came by, determined to defeat the stuck screws holding our furling unit to the mast.
You know what I mean? So I think maybe we need to do it from here, Gary, as well, and just try and load it out squarely.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Despite lots of prying, banging, heavy hammers, and a specialty impact driver, a couple of the screws would not give up. So we went to the last resort, cutting them off with a saw. And finally, the furling unit was off, so we could open it up and see what was causing all of our troubles.
So that's your bearing. There's your...
No wonder it's so hard. My goodness.
Yeah, she's no drains. There's nothing to any. There's no lube points, eh?
That's so bad.
Okay, so we undo the turnbuckle from here. Okay, the thread,
Yeah.
and then you pull the rod up that way.
Up through.
So
where
you,
the
like,
chain
for
is.
example, if you got something on that rod, short, and then we just wound it up. I don't think there's enough travel just to bend it down, We'll get it off and then worry about the other bit of it.
About getting the next one in.
Rich then went over the rest of our standing rigging with us and told us not what we wanted, but what we needed to hear. We had initially hoped to come into the marina for a week or two to sort out the broken toggle and address our sticky mainsail furling unit. As temperatures were starting to drop in Auckland, we were eager to be on our way north to the tropics and Fiji. But after a discussion with Rich, we had to accept that it was time to tackle a project that is critical to our safety. See these turnbuckles and stays going slack and bouncing around in this footage from our sail down to New Zealand? This was likely an early sign of the snapped toggle below deck. We were extremely fortunate to not have a major failure of the entire rigging system. If this one fork could break, how far behind are the others throughout the boat? One Life has 11 different stays that all work together to keep the mast upright and in one piece. The forestay with our Genoa on it, the inner forestay with our staysail, the backstay, and then pairs of intermediate backstays, aft lowers, forward lowers, and cap shrouds over the single spreaders. These stays are all made from twisted 19-strand stainless steel wire, which does not have an infinite life at sea. At the ends of the wire are swage studs, turnbuckles, and then toggle forks connected to chain plates at the deck. All of these parts are potential failure points, and on an ocean-going vessel, should be replaced every 10 to 12 years, depending on whose recommendation you follow. In fact, insurance companies usually won't cover a sailboat going offshore with rigging any older than 10 years. Our standing rigging was last replaced right at about 10 years ago, so it was certainly due. We were impressed by Rich and his team and decided to go ahead and work with them to replace the entire standing rigging system on One Life. We would do all of the work with the mast up, taking stays down pairs at a time, and it wasn't long before the first ones were already removed.
Right. That's a custom piece.
But that one I think is actually a smaller fork on it.
Yeah, that's a half-inch pin down there.
The guys were back bright and early the next day to take measurements of everything that needed replacement. Since our boat is American built, the existing rigging is all imperial, or in inches. The guys took all the measurements needed so the right parts could be ordered to allow the metric wire they have on hand to work with our chain plates and pins on the mast.
She's well and truly broken.
I have no idea how long it was broken for. Because it was so hard to see on the back side of that chain plate. Just the rod left, and it won't go up through the deck slot. Like, all that's left here is the rod, and I can't get it like out the slot.
They fully built the boat around the...
I've pulled the chain plates off of the deck for those auxiliary stays that support our staysail. And now we need to figure out how to get these tie rods out. So I've gone ahead and taken the turnbuckles off the top and bottom where it connects down in here and up here. But the problem we've run into is that these tie rods don't come out. Because they're at an angle, they won't go up through the slots in the deck where the chain plates come through. And there's no way to push it down because it would hit the hull at the bottom. So the only solution is to cut a slot, a bigger slot in the deck so that these can be pulled up and out through the top of the deck. I assume that these were built into the boat during its production before the deck was placed on top of the hull. So all of this was built, and then the deck with the hull and the chain plates, or the deck with the chain plates came down, and then they were attached. So it's not very common to replace these tie rods, and we really wouldn't be even looking at it if we didn't have the failure. But because we had a part break on them, and these are probably original, which makes them almost 40 years old, we're going to go ahead and pull them all, inspect them, and replace as necessary.
Mm-hmm. She's out. Woohoo! They look like they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, this one's got some pretty bad corrosion on it, and this is the one that we had the fracture at the toggle fork. So we'll clean them up and inspect them, and then decide whether we're going to reuse them or replace them.
So today we came over to the rigging shop to see how our progress is going. A couple days ago, the boys took down the boom and the furler. We've been having a lot of trouble getting our main up and down, and we thought that maybe we needed a new furler, but we took it apart and there was just so much corrosion in there. So the guys here have cleaned it all up. It looks fantastic, and it's freshly painted and it's almost ready to go on. Gary's just filing down some new screws that needed a little bit of tweaking. And hopefully we'll get that on maybe tomorrow or later today. But things are moving along really fast. So it's really cool that Rich is letting us come in and film, and we're learning so much about rigging. And anyway, feeling good about the progress so far. But I'm gonna take you guys into the shop so you can see what's going on.
Richard established Independent Riggers in 2014 and operates with his team predominantly out of his workshop here at Half Moon Bay Marina, but also throughout New Zealand and the South Pacific. It is a full-service shop with experience in running rigging, standing rigging, furlers, masts, booms, and all things sailing. We knew we were in really good hands, as they handle everything from small boats to super yachts.
So here is one of our new halyards here, which you guys probably remember we did replace our running rigging, but we didn't replace one of our halyards that was our Genoa halyard, so we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Yeah, that's our new Genoa halyard. Gary just loaded up our furler for our main. That's all looking amazing. Can't wait to use it because it's gonna be so smooth now. Here are a couple of our old shrouds, and you can see the rust on them where they're starting to wear quite a bit. And then we have our shiny new ones over here. Yeah, so we're gonna go through this process with each shroud and all of the chain plates and basically everything. So gonna completely rehaul the boat with rehaul, well, not rehauling, but overhaul. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, what else do you want to show them in the shop?
I think that's it for the shop. Let's go back to the boat and get our mainsail furler mounted.
Yeah.
So we're here at Half Moon Bay in Auckland, and we've been here for I think almost a couple weeks now, and we've been making lots of progress. Since we found that rigging failure, we knew we had to come at least fix that. But we arrived here and started talking with Rich at Independent Riggers, who runs a really nice big rigging shop here. We decided to go ahead and fix everything that's wrong with our rigging while we're here. So one of the main problems we've been having, and we've showed it before, is our mainsail furler has been really difficult to winch the sail up and winch the sail down. So we decided it's finally time, and with Rich's help, we were able to get the boom off, get the furler off, take it apart, and see that it was just totally crusted up inside with corrosion. So we're at the point now where we've got it all rebuilt, painted, cleaned, and Rich and I have been working on getting it bolted back on the mast. And we're just about done with that.
So then our boom can go back on and our mainsail can go back up. And that's one of the major projects we've had going on. And we're super excited. It turns so much more smoothly now, and it should make hoisting our main a lot easier. And then the other major project that we have going on is all of our standing rigging. So we've actually already taken off they're called the D2s that come down from the staysail, and that's the one that had the broken fitting on it. And the aft lowers, so 4 of our stays have already been taken off, and we're going to continue taking them off, making new ones over at the shop, which we'll show you how that's done, and replacing every bit of standing rigging on the boat. So in another couple weeks, One Life will be ready to sail again. This part right here is called the gooseneck, and it's the part that the boom connects to, and it's a very critical part of a sailboat because these can break, and when they do, it's pretty disastrous. So this part goes in here, and the boom bolts to this, and this allows the boom to swing side to side. So we pulled the bolt out of here when we took it apart, but because it's such a critical piece, we're gonna go get a brand new bolt. So I'm just measuring up now to figure out the length of the bolt, and then we'll run over to the hardware store, the burn scale right here, and grab a new one. So it's gotta be, 3 1/3, so like at least 3 3/4 probably. So it's really convenient here at Half Moon Bay because there's a burn scow steps away from the dock, which makes getting any little bits and pieces you need really easy.
All right, so we have the furler for the mainsail put back on, and the guys are here now. They're gonna help us put the boom back and then our mainsail back on. So that is definitely good progress today. Our furler moves so much more smoothly, so that's gonna be a total game changer for us, especially when we're in unsettled weather.
Transfer onto me, maybe. Have you got it? Let's get through here.
Okay.
You right? Oh, that was easy. No. That's it, I think.
Wash your pole half. Yes, that should go now.
Yeah, let's pull this. Okay, a little more. Hold it. Keep it coming.
Hold it on or off?
No, off. Okay, hold there. A little bit more. Okay. To divert this past, because at the moment it's locking off under here, so we want to bring this in closer to here before it goes into its blocks. Yeah, and then to be led after we've discovered that this one here is frozen, so we'll sort that out because that's like a 180 and it will just create a heap of friction.
Hopefully we
Awesome.
can operate the main from inside again
Yes,
because we haven't been able to. It sucks.
Wow, didn't even realize that was an option.
Yeah. Here on the deck in front of the mast, we have a bunch of deck mounted blocks, and these route the lines from the mast for our mainsail back into the cockpit. And we've discovered that 2 of them, one for the main halyard and one for the furling line, have actually both jammed up. So we've actually stopped using the mainsail lines from the cockpit probably 2 years ago. But part of the reason why we had so much trouble with them back then was likely that these blocks were seized up. So we're going to drop the headliner below these so we can get to the nuts on the back of these bolts, pull these off, and hopefully replace them so we can get back to using the lines from the cockpit. Unfortunately, to get those blocks out means we need to take down about 20 pieces of wood trim inside the salon. So we've now got a pretty good mess of stuff all over the place.
but we can pull those blocks off and get them replaced. So you want to do the forwardmost one first?
So Rich just brought back our tie rods. They look incredible. They are nice and shiny and ready to go back in. So we're gonna try to get these inserted tonight, and then I think tomorrow we'll put the chain plates in.
All right, I'm gonna put the rod back in on each side, and then once they're back in place, we'll go inside and we'll reattach the turnbuckles and toggles. So the way these turnbuckles and tie rods work is there's a right-hand thread at one side and a left-hand thread at the other side. And that way, when you turn it one way or the other, it either extends in length or contracts in length to be able to tension it.
So this morning the guys are here and we're gonna put our mainsail back on. I'm really excited to see how the furler works now. So Rich, what's he doing up there now?
He is running your new jib heli because the old one was running over the top of one of the pins, the 3 bars or something, and so chafing badly. So they'll just pull the whole thing right out and then re-drop it. So hopefully it goes past that.
Oh, nice.
That angle, that pin. And going to lift up. I'm going to take all the sheaves out, lube them up, service them.
That'll get rid of the
The
creaky.
squeaks, yeah, and some friction
That'll be
too,
awesome.
hopefully. All those little bits help out.
It felt so good to have our mainsail installed back on board. The confidence in our rigging and sail handling will go a long way in helping us sleep soundly when the wind and seas kick up on those long overnight passages. So this is the replacement for the one that broke. We were able to reuse the turnbuckle, which is the top half here that I'm holding, but the lower half, we had to put a new fork on it. So Rich was able to use some parts that he had and repair it for us, because with these being old Imperial parts with inch units instead of metric units, they're hard to come by here in New Zealand, but Rich figured out a way to make it work. So we're gonna put it back together now.
So before we go ahead and put the chain plates in, I'm just cleaning the area with some alcohol to make sure it's nice and clean so the adhesive will stick nice.
We chose to use 3M 4000 UV sealant under these chain plates to seal the holes where they pass through the deck. There are a number of different sealant options, but we have good luck with this one for deck fittings as it remains flexible and does not degrade from sunlight over time. There are 2 screws that hold these to the deck, but it's the tie rod below that actually takes all the force from the mast. We used blue painter's tape to leave clean sealant lines, and while it looks great, our fingers are crossed that it stays leak-free for a long time. Done with one side, we moved over to the other and repeated the whole process. At this stage, we could attach the new stays and snug them up with the turnbuckles, but we would wait for Rich and the team to do the final tuning.
So now that we've got the chain plates back in for the aft lowers, we're gonna take off these chain plates as well and do this next set. This is the forward lowers. With the stays disconnected above deck now, we can start disconnecting the tie rods down here. So I'll pull these pins out and then we'll loosen these turnbuckles. Pin. Okay, that one's out.
Ooh, one pin out.
Okay.
We just moved across to the other side, and we're basically just gonna repeat the steps until we get the tie rod loosened and then the chain plate up.
Wrench,
Wrench.
scalpel.
It's ready. So now that we've got everything off, we're gonna take this set to Rich, and then he's gonna work his magic. Oh, here he is.
By work his magic, Brooke means dropping these off to an electropolishing shop, so they come back looking shiny and new.
Well, we have 4 stays off the boat, and we can actually take off 2 more at the same time because you really only need 4 up there to hold the mast up straight. So you need the backstay, a forestay, and the 2 cap shrouds. But we're going to go ahead and take off the rest of the lower shrouds, the forward lowers today that Brooke and I pulled the chain plates for yesterday. And Rich's guys have been over to go up and down the mast quite a few times already, but I can't let them have all of the fun. So I'm going to go up and disconnect these. And then I think we're going to go show you how to make new stays in the rigging shop. Check this first.
Hopefully you can get up and down before that rain cloud.
Okay, so I'm up here at the spreader, and all I need to do is take the cotter pin out of this, pull this pin out, and then I'll lower the stay down to Brooke. You can really see how much rust is on this swaged end fitting here, and that's the reason why we're doing this. Just whatever you gotta do with it. Yep. And simple as that. 2 stays are off. Here at the mast, what the stays connect to are called tangs, and they're stainless steel plates. And in our case, it's through bolted all the way through the mast for the tangs on either side. And if you look at these, they're really rusty. So I'm actually going to disconnect them. We'll bring them down, we'll clean them up, get them polished, and then we'll be able to see if there's any cracks and make sure they're okay before we reuse them. One little trick the guys at the rigging shop taught me is when you pull those through, you want to chase a line with it
And that way, any halyards behind it or in front of it stay in the right spot. And this line will keep them separated.
As they were set up on the boat. So we kept the other one as well, Gary. We'll chuck that up. So I'd say it's like that. So that's your difference there.
So you're measuring pin to pin.
Pin to pin, bearing surf to bearing surf. But we'll set, in this case, it's bearing surface to. It doesn't really matter when you got when you got the stays out like this. It is what it is. It can't be a mistake. You're not reading off a tape measure. You know, you're not reading 0.2 instead of 0.3 or something. You know what I mean? But that's your difference there between the two stays. We'll if we're 15 mil off, we'll make both of them 15 mil off. Yeah.
You'll split the difference within making the same.
This one and then the next ones will make the same. And the reason to do that, it gives you a really good datum to go to tune. You know, we're talking, we have everything slack, start with caps, a little bit of 4.5, but not too much. Then we'll go cap stays, and we know, except we don't know if the boat's bent, but we know that those stays are within, man, they're so close. Yeah. Swaging, when you roll swage, it differs a little bit, but man, it's nothing to worry about. So if we do that, and then we know when we set this mast up, we know, you know, we can actually do a basic measurement from here to here, and we know that we're within cooling, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it gets you started.
Yeah, it gives you a good datum to work on. These turnbuckles are pretty well nicely set up, but we'll open our new turnbuckles and we'll have them pretty similar to this, like 2/3 open.
Okay.
So that will give us some stretch factor from use, you know, so by the time you get to Fiji or whatever.
Because you plan on having to tighten them
throughout
time.
A little bit. But
is that over like the first year?
Well, by the time we've done 1,200 miles to Fiji, unless you're, you know what I mean, it depends on.
So the first like good use will stretch it.
You'll crank it up a little bit. Okay. And the reason we're changing out the turnbuckle as well is because we are pretty much sure that this gear is damn near as old as the boat, and especially the turnbuckle. So it says
the turnbuckles could be.
Yeah, and this could, yeah. So this is a critical part. And we've done all your chain plates, so we're going through that. Got your through bars out. You're covering every base possible. It's cool. It's good. It's the way to do it. We want to mark in here too. I like the habit of putting a nice big black mark on there.
So then you can check it and make sure that it's...
Yeah, so then I've turned around and someone's walked in the door and it hasn't shifted like that and I haven't picked it up.
So this is 1x19.
1x19 wide, yeah.
And then, so the total diameter that we're using is 10 millimeter.
10 mil.
Because we're here in New Zealand and rigging is of course the metric system, so we're having to use metric spec cable, but we can still use the same pins and chain plates with imperial sized pins.
Yeah, so we don't get a 16 mil pin, we're using a 5/8 pin. These dies, we've got two ways of doing it. So this machine will go right through to 16. We've got dies for, and we just need to be careful because we don't want to set up. There's a sharp edge here, and there's a nice radius edge there. Okay, so we want a soft start.
So now this machine swaging is basically just like compressing the metal onto the wire.
If you ground that off, once this is done, it's hard to identify the blend of the swage and the wire. There's a couple of 3 types of different swage gear. We've got, this is a pulse, we call it a pulse swager. They're good. These are really nice because they pull it, they're not pushing. It makes a nice straight swage. So often you'll see them, there's a bit of curve on them. It's a nightmare, but some do it. This one here is a roll swager. Yeah. And so with this running, it rotates the dies. You know, it's good for something else, maybe 8 mil.
And a bit more portable, so you can probably bring that out.
We use that, and we also have a hand pump for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and this one here is antiquated, but it's just got a And so yeah,
Yeah,
the boys hate using that.
I bet.
And we'll roll this through once full, and we'll rotate, and we'll do about 2/3 of the flash on the other side. We'll roll it twice. That's just what we do.
And then after it's swaged, that will hold the same force as the wire, like
Oh yeah,
higher breaking
100%.
strength than the wire.
The wire's going to bust. Well before that.
Before
that
that
never, that will never pull out.
Wow, okay.
That always breaks.
breaks the wire first.
Every now and then you want to do a pull test and take it to guys to do that. There we've got our black mark, we know it hasn't slipped out, we're happy with our start.
Ooh.
So releases. So you see this fresh line
Yeah,
on here?
yeah.
We're going to take some of that out. It's just it's something we do. Some people do it, some people don't. We just do it. Yeah, it's cool. And so that's pretty straight, and it's a nice finish.
So we've known some people that have lost a stay, and it always seems to be like right where the wire enters the swage.
Yeah.
There's really nothing that can be done about that. Just replace it with time, right?
Copy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which is why we're doing this now, is because
and
you
it's
just
you
can't tell.
gotta be careful where you get your gear from too.
So where did this wire come from?
It's Cotswold, but it's all based out of Australia, so we buy it all
okay.
through Arcus. So the branding on there is Hammer, but it's through Arcus out of Australia, and we've been buying the gear out of there for a long time, or through the agent through here.
Yeah.
And we've had a really good result and really good feedback. You know, sometimes you'll get that staining like that, just really light, and it makes you it miffs you a bit. But we find what it is. It's what's in the atmosphere. What you just got to try and keep it. It's like a tea staining or something.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure you want it done.
A huge thanks to Rich for letting us have this behind the scenes look into the rigging production process. It was extremely gracious for him to open up his shop to our cameras and let us pick his brain about all things rigging. After all the insight, I was feeling pretty confident, so I even got a chance to run the swaging machine to make one of our stays. Rich kept a close eye on me, of course. His keen attention to detail and insistence on everything being done 100% correctly is exactly what you'd hope for in a rigger. And just like that, another pair of new stays were ready to be installed on One Life. While this project seemed daunting, Rich has a way of making everything seem pretty straightforward and just getting it done. We were stoked with the progress from this first week of work, and feeling pretty good about our chances of getting back out sailing on the open ocean very soon. Thanks for watching, and come along next time as we finish off this massive rigging project and find out we have another little project brewing.